Suddenly, what should have been two people and Don Jr. was now Don, Manafort, Jared.
Who would have their campaign manager, their son-in-law, all attend this meeting to talk about adoptions? It just didn't make sense.
The receptivity for dirt on Hillary could have been used as a green light back at the Kremlin.
Most campaigns never would have taken that meeting. This campaign was happy to take it.
He's talked to Congress, the Mueller team, the grand jury, and now to us. Rob Goldstone with the inside story of the Trump Tower meeting.
So tell us what happened. Was the dirt on Hillary Clinton forthcoming?
A lot of my sources, current and former intelligence officials, believe that this meeting was essentially a test by the Russian intelligence services to see how the Trump team would respond.
When you tell someone, we have dirt, you're testing the waters to see what the response is. And once you get a yes, a positive response to that, you have hooked your fish.
If it was a sophisticated intelligence operation, does that mean the Russian lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya, was a government operative? NBC News' Richard Engel asked her in the spring of 2018 about her government ties.
You said your relationship with the prosecutor general is what?
I am a lawyer, and I'm an informant.
She referred to herself as a government informer, and I think what she meant by that is that, like a lot of people in Russia, she does not work for the government, but when asked to provide information about things she's learned in the course of her work, she provides it.
What some of my sources have said is they wouldn't send the A-team if they were testing, because they don't know whether the Trump team's going to call the FBI and everyone's going to be arrested.
It's possible the Russian lawyer may not have known the real reason she was in the meeting.
If this were an intelligence operation, you might pick someone just like this Russian attorney. Her inability to make people happy at the meeting might be actually consistent with her being kind of an unwitting dupe. The untrained eye could look at this Trump Tower meeting and see a bunch of amateurs trying to get their own business done. But the counterintelligence lens tells us that this would be exactly how Putin would do it today.
What's more, Goldstone now says the Trump Tower meeting wasn't the end of it. He was asked to arrange meetings again after the election and around the inauguration.
So after this, as you paint it, really kind of a disastrous meeting, you get two more calls?
Two more emails, yes.
Asking to set up more meetings with the Trumps.
For the same person, for this attorney.
Goldstone says he didn't actively pursue it, and the story of the Trump Tower meeting might have stayed hidden, if not for the work of some investigative reporters. Joe Becker was part of a team at the New York Times who noticed something interesting in Jared Kushner's updated security clearance forms.
On this long list of contacts that he now gave to the FBI, he wrote that Natalia Veselnitskaya. That was it. And then Paul Manafort, the campaign chairman, had separately had to disclose to Congress that he'd met with some Russian official, I think is how he put it, at the request of Don Jr. So we were able to kind of piece this together, and at least Paul Manafort and the president's son had met with this person in the midst of a campaign to discuss what?
The Times reporters reached out for comment. What would Donald Trump Jr. say about the meeting?
We were told in a statement that Don Jr. gave us that this was simply a meeting to talk about Russian adoptions. And we thought, well, it's pretty high-level staffing for a meeting about Russian adoptions. It just didn't make sense.
It was a Washington Post reporter who tracked down Goldstone on vacation in Athens.
I was the first reporter to call him and ask him what his role was.
So I took the call, and it was a reporter from the Washington Post, and said to me, did you set up a meeting between some Russians and Donald Trump Jr. at Trump Tower? And I said, yes. And her next question was, she said to me, did you see the New York Times yesterday?
He was quite open. He sounded a little nervous, but he quite candidly said yes, I set up the meeting and described the meeting. The one thing he did not want to say in that first phone call is he said he had done it on behalf of a Russian client, but he did not want to name the client.
When I first was asked again about this meeting, the only thing I could remember was adoption.
Come on, you didn't remember you'd offered dirt on Hillary Clinton from the Russian government?
Well, I didn't remember that. That's not the meeting, that's the email. But what the meeting actually transpired, the only thing that sat with me was, it was that ridiculous meeting about adoption.
Goldstone says he continued on with his vacation.
So I went shopping and tried on crowns and took selfies, and it was more hats.
And you posted them?
And I posted them.
You were not getting it.
I was not getting it, no.
It wasn't long before someone slipped Goldstone's email exchange with Don Jr. to the New York Times reporters.
I mean, my jaw dropped. I mean, there it was in black and white.
Once again, they reached out for comment. What would Donald Trump Jr. say now?
We called them in the morning and said we'd obtained the emails. We were prepared to publish them. And Don Jr. started tweeting out these hastily photographed images of these emails. It was clearly an attempt to make a claim that they were doing this in the effort to be transparent. Of course, if they wanted to be transparent, they could have told the truth on day 1 or day 2 or day 3, but they didn't.
In a startling admission, Donald Trump Jr. releasing emails today.
Each day, new bits of information that were damaging to the White House and damaging to Donald Trump Jr. were starting to trickle out.
Within weeks, a new allegation emerged. That first statement from Don Jr. saying the meeting was just about adoption, it came from his father.
He's flying home on Air Force One as they're scrambling and trying to figure out what to say about this. And apparently, he actually essentially dictated the wording of this statement and decided what his son should say.
The president denied it at first, but later changed his story in a memo his lawyers sent to Robert Mueller.
And that seems to be an important focus of Robert Mueller's investigation. Why did President Trump dictate this misleading statement delivered on his son's behalf about this meeting that Trump says he knew nothing about at the time?
What did the president know about the meeting, and when did he know it? That's a question the special counsel's team surely wants to answer. Coming up,
I told myself that if Bob Mueller appeared, I would literally just throw my hands forward and say, just arrest me.